From Lagos, Nigeria's economic capital, this is NC Continental Prime. The headlines. South Africa announces that Russia's President Vladimir Putin will not attend BRICS summit over ICC arrest threats. Organized labor in Nigeria berates government over fresh increase in petrol pump price. And as cost of living protests continue in Kenya, authorities shut schools in Nairobi and Mombasa. You'll get the details of these stories and others coming shortly. Welcome to the news. For our viewers across Africa and the rest of the world, this is NC Continental Prime. I'm Tolulope, Adeleru-Balogun. We begin the news at this hour in South Africa, where the government says Russia's President Vladimir Putin will not attend the BRICS summit being held in August, ending months of speculation over his attendance. An arrest warrant has been issued against Putin by the International Criminal Court, ICC, for alleged war crimes in Ukraine. South Africa is an ICC signatory and would be obliged to arrest Putin if he was to go there. But South Africa and Russia are members of the BRICS organization, and South Africa has remained neutral on the conflict in Ukraine, putting the country in an awkward position. A statement from President Cyril Ramaphosa, spokesperson, says by mutual agreements, Putin will not attend the summit. Putin's spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, says the Russian leader would join via video link, which he claims amounts to full participation.
President Ramaphosa has, over the last couple of months and weeks, held several consultations on South Africa's hosting of the BRICS summit next month. The summit will be attended by the leaders of Brazil, China, India, and South Africa. By mutual agreement between all BRICS member states, President Putin will not be attending the summit. However, Russia will be represented by its foreign minister, Minister Lavrov.
Now, to discuss this further, we're joined by Calvin Dark, Global Affairs Analyst. Calvin, welcome to NC Continental Prime. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be here.
So let's look at this. We've seen months and months of speculation back and forth in terms of this situation with the ICC arrest warrant, South Africa and Putin. But would you say that South Africa possibly crumbled under the weight of international pressure, even though the country has attempted to stay neutral when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine conflict?
Well, I think this demonstrates just how difficult it is to remain neutral on the international stage when it comes to Russia and Ukraine. I also think that it would have been very hard for South Africa to make the argument that they didn't have to fulfill their obligations under the Treaty of Rome, although they have unfulfilled them before. So I think there was just a lot of pressure that they really didn't have any other good option.
No other good options. But when we look at this, there are those who are saying that South Africa, by virtue of this latest twist concerning President Putin's attendance at the BRICS summit, has also failed to protect a strategic global partner, because South Africa and Russia are quite close. But in a way, it seems that a side has been chosen. Or what do you think?
Well, I understand Russia and South Africa's historical relationship, but frankly, Putin has isolated himself because of the Ukraine war that he started. And so that necessarily changes the dynamic. Because one of the things that I think is really key here is ostensibly BRICS exist to help developing countries, to help equalize, should say, economics around the world. And let's look at what Putin's doing. Because of getting out of the Black Sea Grain Initiative, he is raising grain prices, and that's mostly going to affect developing countries, many of them in Africa. So I think South Africa should think about that as they weigh what they have to do now with their historical relationship with Russia.
So let's also look at sort of the historical relationship that Africa has with the ICC. There's been conflict and criticism there. And there is a section of stakeholders who are of the opinion that the West, by virtue of this outcome, has undermined the sovereignty of South Africa. We've seen how African countries have reacted to issues around the ICC for a number of years now. Is there a conversation here to be had about the sovereignty of not just South Africa, but other African countries when it comes to these international conflicts that require people to choose their side or to decide what flag they want to follow?
Well, when it comes to the ICC, that's a choice that South Africa made to be a part of it. So that's a decision that they have to evaluate if that works for them going forward. And when it comes to conflicts in general and having to take sides, that's a consequence of being in the international community. You know, a lot of African countries, for example, want to increase their partnerships with Europe and the United States for a good economic reason, good security reasons, but that comes with having to make choices of who you're going to partner with when there are these international conflicts. So I hope that African countries will choose wisely, because I don't believe that choosing the side of Russia in this particular case is for their best economic or security interest.
In the long run, very pointed take. So very quickly, you did mention BRICS. Now, this whole issue with the ICC, Putin and South Africa's decision has overshadowed the BRICS summit that's coming up in August. How do you think this development will impact the future of BRICS? And even those countries, quite a number of countries who seem to be aspiring to become parts of the BRICS group.
I think that it's going to complicate things for this summit, but I don't think that it's going to halt or fundamentally stop BRICS, because as we see, the other countries are roaring to go ahead because they have an agenda, as they should. I just think that BRICS' role in the world may look a little different with Russia not being as an active member as it probably wants to be going forward.
All right, it's Calvin Dark, Global Affairs Analyst. Thank you so much for joining me. We will be seeing more of this conversation, I'm very sure, in the coming days and weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.